Hello and welcome to Drift0r's Madness, Episode 3, The Most Epic Dream. This is where we're gonna start going a little bit crazier than normal. I know it's crazy already, but we're really leaving reality behind in this episode. Just a quick preface, I don't do any drugs. A lot of you have sent me a lot of messages about doing drugs or not smoking so much pot so I wouldn't be paranoid, or lay off the crystal meth and stuff like that. I don't do any drugs. I'm perfectly clean, so keep that in mind. And there are lots and lots of questions about Mr. Shadow and why he has not shown up in this dream yet. That's because the Shadow, or as I have affectionately nicknamed him now, Mr. Shadow, is not always a physical presence, is not always the boogeyman. He's more like the director. If you've ever played Left 4 Dead 2, they have the AI director that's supposed to keep things going. He is the director of these dreams, the architect of my nightmares, so to speak. And that is not the uncommon function for the Shadow. For those of you that have had the, what word am I looking for? Misfortune of running into him. Occasionally will manifest itself in person for whatever reason. As I became aware that I had this problem and the specific name for it, the manifestations were more and more concrete and simple, or straightforward and less deceptive, although that might have been another fragment of my mind imagining the thing that I was most afraid of. Yes, I'm getting to the story, just bear with me. The Shadow is a part of everyone's collective unconscious, something primitive left behind from ancient times, and something incredibly dangerous. Not everybody has to deal with it, but unfortunately I did. You can read about it on your own if you want. The Shadow, for me, was about punishment for things I don't understand entirely, or I don't really care to do that introspect. I don't think I'm that bad of a guy, and I guess maybe I kind of am. I don't know, but it was always about punishing me or keeping me trapped in my sleep forever. They asked me, oh, well, if you know you're dreaming, why don't you wake up? Man, I wish I could do that. I tried and tried and tried. No matter what, I couldn't wake up out of a dream. When I would dream, I was stuck in the dream, and even if I realized I was asleep, there was no such thing as waking up. It just couldn't happen. I almost never wake up from a bad dream. I have learned a trick recently. What I do is, if I know that I'm dreaming, I try and hyperventilate myself in the dream, and I try and get my heart rate on my sleeping body as high as humanly possible, because I know after it goes above a certain amount, your body's forced to wake up. Although this makes me wake up a bit violently, it does make me wake up and end the nightmare, although that's a recent trick and not one that I knew at the time. The Shadow itself, or Mr. Shadow, also happens to know every single thing that I know. I talked in the other dream about trying to fake it out and dodging, and it catching me and saying that it knows everything I know. It knows that because it's in my head, or he's in my head, a part of me, whether I like it or not. It's there always. Tough subject, but it is just another aspect of myself and an aspect of everybody that, no matter how much you don't like it, it's real and it doesn't go away. But unfortunately, like I was saying, it knows everything that I know, even before I know it. It has access to the subconscious things that the conscious mind is not aware of. So it's a pretty damn good architect for a nightmare. What do I want to give another example? Nah, I'll save that example for the end of this commentary. I'm trying to do this as much as possible fluently, because it's very difficult to edit a 30-minute audio segment. I lose track of my little clips as best I can. But now we're going to continue with the dream. Where last we wake off, the title character, myself, wakes up in a well-furnished but dimly lit room, somehow still alive and feeling generally okay. So there I am, no broken arms, no smashed hand, no torn open neck or broken legs or cracked back or anything else going on. But there's light peering out from under the door, so I very slowly walk toward the door and open it cautiously. Inside the room there are 6 people waiting on me. In the middle of the room, in the center of the conversation, is my friend John, putting on his poker face, looking very perplexed, very kind of lost and trying to be cordial, although I can still tell he's very afraid. To his left, there is a short brunette woman wearing a very fancy dress, drinking. To the left of her, there is an older, balding man sitting at the table, back facing me, or right side facing John as well. Very not interested in anything. I don't know what he's drinking. Behind the bar, what did I say? 5? Yes, no, 6. Got my numbers right. Behind the bar, there is a young teenage girl who looks very, very familiar. I can't quite figure out who this person is, but she looks so damn familiar sitting there, serving drinks, laughing, having fun, playing with the little old umbrellas and spigots behind the bar, quite like a child. To the right of my friend John, or my right, which would be his left, is the very strange man, the very large, strange man that doesn't really fit in anywhere. He's got a name, I'll give it to you soon. And to the left of him is a very tall, red-headed man, very tall, very skinny, red hair, freckles, ginger guy, kind of standing there chatting as well. And when I open the door, they all stop for a second and look at me and chuckle just a little bit, and the little brunette girl sitting at the bar stool says, "Oh, I'm glad you're finally awake. We've been waiting for you." And they're like, well, and I'm still a little bit confused, and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she laughs. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you know, I broke your arm in half. It took a long time to heal up," and I'm still confused. I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And that's when the skinny, red-haired man speaks up and tells me that I've been asleep for a month. I haven't moved in a month. I've been asleep. And I'm confused and starting to panic. I gotta poker face this because I really don't know what's going on. And they all chuckle a little bit more and they're like, "Relax, relax. You're perfectly fine and healthy. Of course you didn't starve to death. We took care of you." And I was about to open my mouth to ask, "What do you mean we took care of you?" And that's when the strange man spoke up and asked me, "You don't have any," he says, "You don't have any questions?" And as I'm about to open my mouth again, he says, "Of course you do." It's like, isn't it bleedingly obvious what's going on here? And at this point, I'm a little bit confused, but the only thing I can manage to sputter is that I think that you guys are vampires, and they all chuckle and laugh, and even the bald man facing the bar chuckles and takes a swig of his drink. And the strange man, who is apparently the leader of this group, laughs himself and tells me that yes, we are vampires, and I'm glad you're at least smart enough to catch on to that. This is really beginning to concern me and get confusing. And the group stands up and they walk around me, not surrounding, but cordially, handshakes, patting on the back. It's like, "Oh, don't worry about it, you know, it's not so bad, just chill, it's not a big deal, blah, 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 there's vampires everywhere, and this and that, and just relax and have a good time. Here, have a drink, hand me a drink, take a drink. God bless, that feels better, I needed a drink through all that crap. I don't even drink in real life, why the hell am I drinking in my dreams?" And they're all palling around, farting around, and laughing and drinking, and the little brunette girl is laughing. She's like, yeah, John's been awake a few days. We're sorry it took you so long, but I kind of broke your arm on accident." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She says, "You don't remember? I snapped your left arm. It broke in 2 different places. There was blood everywhere. We almost thought you weren't going to make it." And that's when I remembered using my fingers to stab something in the eyes, and that thing fucking my arm all to hell. I'm taken aback, shudder, step away. I'm like, but your eyes. And she looks at me all pretty. "Oh, what about them?" And bats her eyes at me. "Is there something wrong with my eyes?" And again, I'm flabbergasted and I can't even speak. She finds it hilarious, laughing away. She's like, "Don't worry about it. They healed up. They're fine." And it is explained to me over the course of an evening and many drinks and awkward conversations that me and John were recruited by a pack of vampires. A pack. A pack is definitely the right word because the names are very confusing. I don't remember them very well. The strange man I'm now going to call the Alpha. He is the leader of the pack. Like a dog pack, they have to have an alpha, a primary male leader. He is the Alpha, and in this dream, if there was an embodiment of Mr. Shadow, that would definitely be him. Fits the bill perfectly, square on. But Mr. Shadow is also the architect of this entire dream, this entire complicated nightmare that is yet beginning. We are so very, very much so in the beginning here and have so many episodes to go. that they're vampires and they do enjoy their lives. They drink, they smoke, they do drugs, they fuck around and travel and enjoy eternity as they see fit, and that I have been selected to join them. But it's not all fun and games, that they do have enemies from time to time, people that hunt vampires, some loonies, some organized, some people actually hunting down murderers looking for revenge on relatives that were consumed, and are quite surprised when they find an entire troop of vampires. They get put down pretty quickly. And that even though they're stronger than normal, they're undernumbered. They have been weakened. There was some kind of encounter recently that caused them to lose one of their own. And I can't remember if they explained it then or later, but the person that was lost was a very large man. He wasn't the alpha, but he was the protector, which doesn't make any sense. He wasn't the strong. He was by far the strongest, but his only function was protecting. He was a sadist of sorts, a large, muscly monster of a man, and he was apparently really close with the short little brunette girl whose eyes I put out for reasons I couldn't understand at the time, but will be made more clear later. So that hurt her, but most importantly, the group lost its beefcake. The group lost its tank, its killer, its not alpha. Well, I guess tank is a good word. And they needed not one replacement, but it was decided that they needed 2 replacements. And me and John fit the bill, and I couldn't help but ask why. Why me? What's so special about me that you should offer me eternity and make me a vampire and these other sort of things? And it was explained to me by the Alpha that they have a tendency to look for people that understand power quite well, that understand how to use it, how it can be abused, often people that have had bad experiences so that they know firsthand how badly things can go wrong, because they don't want vampires or pack members that think of themselves as little gods and run around like they can't be hurt and piss on people for fun. This is very bad for the group. So in my case, I was witnessed taking on the 3 black gentlemen in episode 1 and getting my ass handed to me. They were impressed at first by my ability to fight, and the ass handing was interesting, and they watched the emotional problems develop in my personal life, and they watched the self-awareness of such problems and me seeking help from the support group and growing a little bit stronger from the support group. And the same thing of John. They watched a smart, capable, independent man submit himself to the servitude of others that were absolutely unworthy of said loyalty. And they watched it self-destruct in ways that almost could have become violent. I think my friend John had a few bad habits he didn't tell anybody about, but they knew quite well. And they watched him, also self-aware of his problems, seek help and slowly start to regain his sense of self-worth and control over his life through the support group. But that was the tipping point. They looked for people that were injured, that had some form of power or confidence, had lost it, became injured. I don't know why this criteria. I'm confusing myself. And then sought to regain it. Not only did they regain it, but seek to regain it, but they did regain it. The final test was me and John and the group confronting the strange man that didn't belong there, because as he told us, he made it bleedingly obvious that he did not belong in that group, and he was just waiting to see if we would question him, and if so, what we did. Well, maybe that's not the final test. Maybe that's the next to final test, the semi-final, the qualifying round. The final test of our worth was that night in the parking lot, to see if not only would we question that which is not right, or that which is dangerous even after having such bad experiences, but to see if we would come out and seek to do something about it, if we had the courage to step out of our comfort zone yet again in order to grow. And we did that. I guess that would be the semifinal. But the last test was our desire to fight. When confronted with almost certain death, not only I, but John as well, chose to fight to the death. Begrudgingly, reluctantly, maybe so, but fighting and not giving up, not dying like a little girl, actually making it worth their time, making them work for the kill a little bit, as much as you can make a superhuman, inhuman monster work for a kill. I'm no sure as hell I made mine work with those bloody eyes, although I don't think it left much of a lasting mark. And that was the recruitment criteria. They were looking for people that had a very good understanding of power and situations and things like that. So my friend and I were selected. We passed the test and we were recruited through the wonderful and painful bite on the neck. But it wasn't over yet. A second, did I forget anything? Oh, yes, and that's when I remembered who the young teenage girl behind the bar playing with the knobs and making drinks for people actually was. Why I had seen her before, she was the girl working behind the counter in the Save-A-Lot food store, or the general, I forget what it was, the dollar food store, that I was attempting to flirt with by buying groceries like a boss, and it was by enamoring her that I was put into the first round of this selection process. And the first thing I could think to say is, but you know, she's a vampire, how does she go out in the daylight? And it was all laughed at and hush hush, and don't worry about it, we'll explain it later. That's not too important right now. What is important right now is that she is the only one among us that can give you a gift. Again, I'm confused. I wish I could have been with John and woken up a few days ago when all this was going on, because, man, that would have helped me out here, because they're giving me the, definitely crash course, and a speed crash course at that. And I don't understand, like, what are you talking about gift? I'm already a vampire here, and I don't understand any of this stuff. And they chuckle again, and they're like, well, like, we're kind of like a pack. We have our specialties. The person that was lost, he was our killer, he was our tank. The large man kept speaking, the strange man, the alpha. He says, you know, I'm the leader of the pack. It's my duty to protect everybody. And he pointed to the tall man with red hair and freckles, and he says, this is our thinker, this is our specialist, he's a hematologist, he's the person, he's the smartest of the group, and we depend on him. And he pointed toward the short brunette woman sitting at the bar, and he says, this is our seductress, she knows sex and temptation and everything better than any person here, and she's excellent at it. And perhaps sensing a bit of confusion in myself, he says, when all else fails, you would be surprised how far sex can go, and that though they don't need her often, she is quite useful when they do need her. And behind her was the old and balding man, who was only not a young vampire. They said, this is their business specialist. This is the man with all the money and all the power that makes this happen. And they pointed around to the room that I was in, that, you know, this is a basement. This is a well-furnished basement with a bar and pool table, an entertainment center, and extra rooms, and it's completely locked down. Nobody can get in. No sunlight can get in. We can stay here for months and years, and all the bills are paid. This kind of thing isn't easy to do on your own. We don't dig holes, we don't live in coffins, and we don't play that game anymore, thanks to him. He takes care of all that for us. And then he points to the young teenage girl, who I enamored so by buying groceries like a champion, and says, she gives gifts. She is the one that will determine what your specialty is, what makes you better than everybody else. And it has already been determined that you are to be a protector. We need you to protect the group and keep us safe, because we've lost our protector. And right now we have so many people with so many specialties that we are becoming weak. If you over-specialize, you breed in weakness, and that's our situation at the moment. And they tell me that I need, and will tell me and John that we need to go and spend time with her alone in this one particular room, and that all will take care of itself. And we're still poker facing. I don't know what he is. He might be comfortable by now, but I'm still about tripping balls trying to just play it along and not get killed. And they give some time to get her ready, which is just getting her out from behind, playing the bar and talking to her for a second or two to get the serious face on. And this is something I noticed right away. She didn't seem self-aware like the others or as interested in anything. She seemed lackadaisical, disjointed. What word am I looking for? Oh, I don't know the word, but she just didn't seem to realize where she was or the gravity of what was going on at all. And I had a few minutes to talk to John, and he admitted that he was a little bit concerned, but he'd been awake much longer than me and lived a few days, and that all was going to be okay. Not to worry about it, that they're good people, and that he trusts them, and he thinks that this is a good thing, and that we're going to live forever, and all this and all that, and I don't have any choice but to play along. And they tell John that she's ready and he needs to go pay a visit with her, and it is at this point I'm going to tell the story not from my perspective, but from a third-person omniscient perspective, using information that I was able to glean later on through different conversations that happened throughout the course of this very long dream. As I said, when the revelation of what happens in the room is mentioned to me, I will let you know exactly how that information got my way, but for now just trust me on the third-person thing. So the teenage girl goes in the room with John, and she puts her hands on him and looks at him in a cute little seductive kind of way. Inappropriate relationship here, I know, but just bear with me. And tells him what were the words. These exact words are quite important. She tells him, she says, John, I need you to be strong and protect. Sorry, that was not the right. Let me get this. I gotta get this perfect because it is important. Let me think just a second. Yes, she says, I need you to be strong and protect the group, and I need you to be free. And then she gives him just a little kiss on the lips, a little bit of tongue, but not much, just a little peck, seductive, sort of, but the magic or biology is done. If it was magic, maybe it was the kiss. If it was biology, maybe it was a touch of saliva, but thus it was done. John would, in time, become strong and remain free. And she says that's it, and he takes a step to leave, but she holds on to the shirt and says, but wait. I need you to do something for me. When you get outside, the Alpha's going to ask you what I said, and you're going to tell him I told you to be strong and protect the group, because that's the truth. You just don't have to mention the part about being free. She says, you promise me that you'll do this? And John, of course, says he'll promise. And John leaves, and he comes out, and I ask him what happened, and he said that she gave him a kiss and told him to be strong and protect the group, and that was it. I asked him why. He said he doesn't understand why, but it's some sort of custom for them, and he's playing along, and that I should probably do the same. And this being said, in the group of all the people that are so very interested and so very undead and listening, and they all agree that yes, it is a custom, and that yes, you just play along and don't worry about it. So, my turn next. I go into the room with the girl. It's starting to feel like sloppy seconds here. And the little teenage girl walks up to me in much the same way John said she did to her, pulls me close and says, I need you to be strong, and I need you to be true to yourself. And she gives me a little kiss, the same kind of kiss she gave John, just a smidge of tongue, just a little bit of seduction, but nothing too serious. And as I step to leave, she holds me and says, but I need you to make me a promise. And I says, what promise? She says, no, I need you to promise me that you'll do what I say. And at this point, I'm still scared and I don't know what's going to happen, so I say, yes, I promise you that I'll do what I say. And even in my dreams, my promises are stronger than any iron or oak. When I make a promise in dreams or in real life, I damn well intend to keep it no matter what the consequences, because a man is only as good as his word, and if a man can't keep his promises or keep his word, then he's not much of a person. She tells me that I need you, when the Alpha asks you what your purpose is. Did I say the group earlier? If I didn't, then let me make the correction. She told me to be strong and protect her and be free. Not be free. Damn it, I'm messing this up so bad in the commentary. She told me to be strong, to protect her, and to be true to myself. Those were the words. But she told me to make sure to tell the Alpha and the rest of the group that she told me to be strong and to protect her. And that would be that, and that it wouldn't be a lie, it would just be a partial truth, and that everything would be fine. So I come outside, and they're all smiling, and the Alpha leans over and puts his arm on my shoulder and leans in convincingly like a friend that I've known for years, but not exactly a friend, because I know he's more of a frenemy or an enemy than a friend. And he says to me, so what did she say to you? And with my absolute best lie, I tell him that she told me to be strong and to protect her. And he smiled a bit and stepped back, and he said, well, I thought that was my job, but if she's worried and she needs another protector, that's fine too. I just need you to do what I say and keep her safe and protect the group, and everything will be fine. So I've been here a day or an hour or two, and I've already got feathers ruffled. And that was probably the most important part of this dream. It's coming next. The next little bit is very stereotypical. I'm not trying to make it boring, but they said that to finally join the group, you need to drink a little bit of blood. And we were both taken aback and said, no, I don't really want to drink blood, and I don't want to kill somebody. And they laughed and they said, no, we don't drink blood like that. We're not barbarians. And they went over to the bar and opened up a little refrigerator and got out a very fancy-looking wine glass and poured us it was blood, of course, in wine glasses, and said, here, just drink this. And I'll be damned if it didn't smell great. Motherfuck, it was delicious. It was like the best-smelling thing I've ever smelled in my life. Oh my god, I can remember it now. It if you've ever tasted blood, you know that it's a little bit sweet. Imagine something like that, but way, way worse and tempting. And when me and John smelled it, I could tell he had a similar reaction. And they all smiled and told me to just take a drink, that it's good for me, and don't worry about it. Nobody died. It was from a blood bank, and, you know, just chill. And I drank it all. It was fucking delicious. I had a second glass, and then I had more to drink, and we talked for a long time. I had a lot of philosophical questions about eternity and living forever and the rules of being a vampire and that sort of thing. And they were explained to me in tandem, not different from regular rules. I don't believe they had the garlic thing. It was sunlight bad, you know, stab in the heart, probably die, you gotta drink blood to live, etc., etc. I'll explain this a lot more in the next video because it was a lot more in depth than that, but it's the standard vampire thing. So there I am. I'm a vampire now, drinking a little bit of blood from a wine glass like I'm a sophisticated person, sitting in a room full of interesting vampire specialists, and they tell me that, you know, that's it for day one. You just need to rest, and tomorrow night your training will begin. I'm like, what are you talking about, training? Vampires don't need training. Like, of course you do. Even though you're a vampire, you can still be killed, and we need you a long time. To be alive a long time to protect the group. And that you're going to need your rest, because tomorrow is going to be a long day. And with that, I went back to the same room that I woke up from, and they all returned to different rooms. It was a very large basement. It was like an underground apartment. It was crazy. And went to bed, and they said they would see me in the evening, and chuckled like it was some kind of joke for them. And that was that. Now, part 4 is going to continue on day 1 of vampire training, but one more little example I wanted to give you about Mr. Shadow in my dreams before this is all over in the 30-minute segment. There was a dream that I had where I had a direct confrontation with Mr. Shadow. I woke up in a very empty and bleak desert. It was dark. I felt like I was in the map Sandbox on Halo 3, if that makes sense, like just a dark desert sunset. And Mr. Shadow is there, or isn't there. There's just a voice, and it says hello, and I look around, I'm like, hello, 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 well, you know, where are you at, what's going on? And I hear a laugh, and it says, I'm not there. And I'm like, well, you know, where are you? And he's like, I'm in your head, stupid. And I was like, wait, what? He's like, man, you're daft, I'm in your head. He's like, and then I hear a voice coming from behind me. It's like, no, I'm behind you. And I turn around, there's nothing there. It's like, wrong behind, and it's from behind me again. Turn around, not there. And it's like, I'm to your left. I look left real quick, and then I get punched in the back of the head from the right, and I swing to the right, and he's like, man, you're really stupid. You don't understand. I'm not anywhere. I'm everywhere. I'm everything in this place. And I still don't get it, and I say, you know, are you the shadow, or are you the person that's been giving me all these bad dreams? And the answer I get is, bingo, my God, he finally gets it. He's waking up. And I just start, why don't you, you know, it's like, I want to wake up. And he just laughs. I say, I want to wake up. More laughing. It's like, I want to wake up, I want to wake up, I want to wake up, I want to wake up. More laughing. It's like, you don't get it. You can't wake up here until I let you wake up. I'm like, that's bullshit. And he says, oh yeah? I don't see you waking up. If I want you to wake up, I can wake you up. But until then, you are stuck here with me. So the next part is, what do you want from me? He's like, oh, I just want you to suffer. So I'm yelling into the sky. It's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to put me in a nightmare again? And then from behind me I hear the voice. It's like, no, you're already in a nightmare. And I turn around and I see myself, a very evil version of myself, pale, dark eyes. The eyes are solid black. There's nothing but blackness, like an animal eye, but when they're human, the slits make it look weird. He's like, no, I don't have to make a nightmare to torture you. You can torture yourself. And I'm like, you don't, I know, what the, at this point I'm really like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, well, I'm a part of you, of course. I know everything that you know, so you're torturing yourself right now. I'm like, no, I'm not. It's obviously you. And he's like, well, what am I? And I'm telling him, well, you're a part of me. Well, therefore, you're torturing yourself. You're so crazy, you're talking to yourself in your sleep. What the hell is your problem? And I was like, I don't have the problem. The only problem I have is you. And I try to rush forward and swing at the shadow, and it's just like hitting air. There's nothing there, like a ghost in a bad movie. Teleports somewhere else. And I look over the hill, and now there's a giant Mr. Shadow with one of those weird little puppet things with the strings, and he says, you don't understand, I'm the master of this realm. You don't get to hit me. I get to tell you what to do. And moving the little strings back and forth, and my arms start to dance like a puppet. I can't move, I can't control myself. And he tells me, I control every move you make in this world. The only thing you get is your freedom of thought, which is my freedom of thought, because we are one and the same. and I think it's time for you to dance. So he makes me, the puppet, dance, and makes me jump, and then cuts the strings and says, now it's time to fall. And then I fall face first into the sand. Time to wipe the sand off, get back up and look around, and I'm running out of time for this recording, so I'm going to hit pause and start another one. Enjoy the little musical break I've got linked for you guys.
Friendly spy plane inbound. Losing Bravo.
After wiping the sand off my face, I look up and I'm no longer in the desert. I'm in a city, not exactly bustling, but a nice, clean-looking city, and people are walking by and driving by. And the Shadow's there, once again, inhabiting my form, but now not only is he pale-skinned and dark-eyed, but he's bigger and stronger and more dangerous-looking than myself. He's more like an anti-drifter, an evil drifter, an arch-nemesis monster of a drifter, the thing that you really don't want to mess with. And he says, I'll give you an example. And this next little bit is going to sound a little bit like the intro in The Matrix, but bear with me. He says, you see all these people are how you see the world. They're what you think about others. They're stereotypical, and you know what? You're not far off, because, and he explains something about population averages, and it's like, but there's an outlier. And a beautiful girl walks by, and as he says outlier, he says, the outlier you were looking at was the pretty woman. He's like, no, I wasn't. He says, yes, you are. You don't understand. I'm inside of your head. I know everything that you know. You were looking at her. I'm like, okay, well, maybe I was. So what? He's like, do you want this woman? No, I don't. I'm too busy right now. I was like, of course you do. I just saw you want. He goes, you can't see me want. He says, I'm inside your head. I see everything that you think. Of course I can see you wanting. And I say, no, I don't. He's like, you want this woman. It's like, if this woman wouldn't offer herself to you, you would rape her, wouldn't you? No, I wouldn't. He says, maybe you wouldn't. That's only because you're a pussy, only because you're afraid of doing something that can get you in trouble and get you caught, but you want to. It's like, no, I don't. He's like, of course you do. Everybody does. It's a power trip. It's a fantasy and a sex trip all at once, and everybody wants to be the god of their own little world, but you can't do that because you're so weak and so sad. And he's like, you know what? I'll give you a break. I'll make you do it. And he breaks out the little puppet strings in his hands. He's like, this is a joke. This is an illusion for you. I don't even need those. And he throws these away and says, I'm just going to sit here and watch and make you do it. And so he did, much against my own free will. I was treated like a puppet and forced to hunt down and beat and rape some random woman, a projection of my imagination, and feeling disgusted with myself like I wanted to throw up. And when the deed was done and I felt horribly, he said, you liked that, didn't you? No, I didn't like that. He says, of course you like that. I'm part of you. I know exactly what you like, but you're afraid at the same time. You're afraid of getting caught, afraid of doing wrong, afraid somebody's going to put you in jail or make you go to hell. But what you don't understand is that none of that matters. The only control somebody has over you is the control that you let them have over you. The only thing that you're afraid of is punishment, and that makes you weak. And it says, no, I'm not afraid of punishment, or maybe I am afraid of punishment. That's a lie, but I just don't want to hurt other people. I don't want to be the bad guy. I want to help people. He says, no, you don't. He says, I know you. I know the one thing you want to do more than anything is hurt. It's the only thing you're ever good at. It's the reason you were born, is to hurt. And that is ultimately true. In this world, there are a few things that I'm good at, and hurting people is something that I'm very, very good at, but I don't want to be that person. I strive to be something different. Everybody I know thinks I'm mild-mannered and calm, but I have a temper like they've never seen. Vicious, monstrous, murderous. I make sure that I don't even touch sharp objects or guns or weapons because I consider myself a dangerous person, and I don't believe that I have the self-control to allow myself the privileges of such things. And so, the Shadow knows that as well. And he says, you know, this is getting boring. Let's go on a road trip. Let me put you in your truck. I drive a truck. And let's go on a trip down the road. And I'm driving down the road. He says, you can just drive as you see fit, sitting in the passenger seat, looking at me, glaring at me like an evil smile, a devil that's so contented with his own little story, telling me, you know what, I'll make it easier. All the lights are green. You can just go. And he says, you want to run them over, don't you? And I'm like, what are you talking about? The people on the side of the road. You thought about running them over. And at this point, I know that I'm beyond lying, so I just say, yes, I did think about running him over. He says, it would be fun, wouldn't it? And at this point, I am again beyond lying, and I say, yeah, I think it would be fun, but I won't do that. I don't want to hurt people. He says, of course you do. It's no fun unless it hurts people. It's no fun unless they scream, and you hear that little bone crunch, and the tires slip on the blood. That's exactly what you want. And I tell him that may be what I want, but you say I'm weak for not doing it. I say I'm strong for resisting you, for being a good person, a person that gives back to the world instead of the monster that I should be. He says no. He says you're confusing weakness for strength, or moral fortitude for, what was the word? He said I was confusing strong morals with fear, and that fear was the only thing keeping me from doing the bad things that sit in my head. And this conversation only went more and more downhill. Every single sin I've ever committed in my life, every bad thing I've wanted to do, every person I've wanted to hurt and burn and insult that could barely keep me under control, I was forced to watch over and over again, and at his leisure, of course, to act out my darkest fantasies on those that I could not stand in situations that I could barely control myself in. And at the end of this, he was trying to push me towards some sort of self-realization, and I rejected all of it. I told him, no matter how long you keep me in this dream, you can keep me here for 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, I'll stay here for eternity, but I'll never agree with you, and I'll never be who you are. I'll never be the dark person, the bad guy that I was born to be. I'll reject that, and I'll be something else, even if I'm a shitty person at everything else. It's better than being a bad person. And he laughed again and says, you'll see in time. It's only a matter of time before you agree with me. And he says, hell, I'm a part of you. I'm inside your head right now. I can hear you thinking about what if it is true. It's like, I'll just give you some time. You can wake up. You've got a long day tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow night. And that's it. I wake up. That was one of the worst dreams I've had in some time, but that is not entirely an uncommon occurrence for me. And though it is a dark, dark story, I hope that you guys did find it entertaining. Sorry I got so distracted there. That was just a side story. The whole vampire dream thing is still just starting, so there is much, much more to go with that. So just stick around and I'll post the rest of the parts in a few days, or whenever I can find the gameplay and the time to record, because these episodes are so very, very long.